Hey YouTube, Brian here. I want to present to you now this brief video called The History of Taiwan. Please don't be offended. I know it's brief, I know it's badly drawn, I know some parts are silly, and I know some important things are being left out. Hopefully you can still enjoy it though and learn something anyway. Here we go, the brief history of Taiwan. Taiwan was first inhabited by Aboriginal peoples, who have closer links to Filipinos, Malays, Indonesians, and other Austronesian peoples. They have closer links to them than to anyone in China, so ethnically they are actually a lot different. And things were good for them before anyone else was in Taiwan, and it was just them. They could hunt, fish, dance, build their traditional houses, farm, basically do whatever they want, and this Aboriginal paradise lasted just about until other people showed up, European imperialists. And that brings us to the next part. In 1542, Portuguese sailors sailed by on a giant ship, saw Taiwan and thought it was really pretty, so they exclaimed Ilha Formosa, which means beautiful island in Portuguese. Later, Formosa would come to be like the standard English name for the island. Later, in the 1620s, the Dutch and the Spanish showed up. The Dutch came under the Dutch East India Company and set up shop in the south, and the Spanish set up shop in the north. And it was actually these two European powers that started encouraging Chinese, mostly from Fujian and some from Guangdong, to immigrate to Taiwan. Why? Well, because, why do the work yourself of farming sugar and rice? Just get cheap labor from China. That's what we do these days anyway. And that lasted until later when the Dutch kicked the Spanish out and took over all of Taiwan. And later after that, this guy Koxinga, who was loyal to the Ming Dynasty in China, kicked the Dutch out. Koxinga then set up a kingdom called Dongning, and it ruled the island until the Qing Dynasty took over in 1683. The Qing Dynasty then ruled the island until 1895. In 1895, the Qing Dynasty ceded the island to the Japanese in the Treaty of Shimonoseki. This was not a good treaty for China. It was an unequal treaty, and China had to sign it because back then they were weak, and the Western powers and Imperial Japan were not. They were the strong guys. They were the leaders of the world. Now, obviously, the Taiwanese people didn't like that, so they proclaimed their own Republic of Formosa, but they were way outmanned and outgunned, so it collapsed in about 5 months. Nice try, very brave, but it failed. Next came the period of Japanese rule, which lasted 50 years until the end of World War II. Now pause, it should be noted that during this time there was an uprising by Aboriginal people against the Japanese. And there was a very good movie about that called Seri Kabale. Check it out. So there was an uprising, but again the uprising failed. They were outmanned and outgunned, and the Aborigines were all killed. After World War II, the Japanese handed Taiwan over to the Kuomintang, the KMT-led ROC, that's the Nationalist Republic of China. And now to make a long story short, before World War II, China was in the middle of a civil war, and after World War II ended, the civil war kicked off again. And well, the communists led by Mao Zedong, aka Chairman Mao, won, and the KMT nationalists led by Kai-Shek lost, and retreated to Taiwan. After this, Kai-Shek ruled Taiwan and a handful of small islands as the ROC, the Republic of China, and he set up a single-party state, a dictatorship where all political dissenters were persecuted, and people lived under martial law. Martial law is military rule. Yeah, I find that interesting since this is exactly what Mao did in China. Not so different those two, are they? So, Chiang Kai-shek ruled until his death in 1975, and after that, during the 1980s, the island experienced the so-called economic miracle and went from being an agrarian farmer state to people working in many different fields, including the technology sector. And Taiwan became something of an Asian economic powerhouse, or an Asian tiger. Later on, in the late 1980s, the political scene liberalized, and the island started to evolve. And the one-party state came to an end with the ending of martial law in 1987. And the first, basically not completely free, but basically the first multi-party elections were held in 1986. And that was the beginning of Taiwanese democracy. Thank you, everybody in the outside party movement, or the Dangwai or Waidong movement. I forget which one it is. And that brings us to the modern day. Today, Taiwan, which is known for Taipei 101, bubble tea, HTC phones, chou tofu, stinky tofu, and in my opinion is a very nice place to live. So there you have it, the brief history of Taiwan. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to comment, rate, give me a thumbs up, or if you hate it, give me a thumbs down, whatever. And subscribe. Please help me build up my channel. I put a lot of effort into it, so I would appreciate some feedback, and if you would share this video, because that's how my channel grows, that would be awesome. Alright guys, see you later.